Hi boys and girls, it's me Butch. My name is Terry David Silvercloud. I'm 73 years old. I live in Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada. Today is Tuesday the 15th of May. It's a hot sunny day at 1:30 p.m. here, and I'm about to get out and about. I have severe chronic pain issues, which are not getting any better. Trying something new. And because I worry about my health, I'm getting old. I try to be useful every day. Aside from trying to be a painter, I make videos and try to spread some of my knowledge. So today I want to talk about the Jehovah's Witness people because I hadn't really thought about them. I've always mostly avoided them as a kind of a wacky cult. But because I've been going on about religion lately in some of my videos, I thought, all right, I got to deal with those guys. So you need to know I'm an atheist. I've been an atheist, I guess, much of my life. Being a scientist, it took me a long time to examine all of the data I could possibly examine and come to the conclusion that the idea of a God is not only not logical, it's outrageous and evil. No one or anything should rule intelligent life forms forever and be able to punish them at will. People seem to like their psychopathic gods who will torture them and do whatever it takes to make them become codependent. And then once they get religious, they want everybody else they spread the word. So, they have such low self-esteem by this time, they need other people to encourage their beliefs and their superstitions. So I hate religions, all of them. I consider every single one of them to be evil. Christopher Hitchens, if I hadn't already said it, I probably did. I'm a bit ADHD. Really reminded me that it's my duty as an atheist to stand up and stamp out this evil we know as religion. And today I'm on to the Jehovah's Witness people, and what I know that I'm going to tell you, and you can check all this out, go ahead, I'm just done the homework for you. I've read Bibles and the Quran and studied religions quite a bit because of things I'm into. I'm into theoretical physics, believe it or not. I'm not going to explain how theoretical physics and religion got involved, but it was a long time ago, basically when I began to study really basic shapes. My very favorite basic shape is a shape called the gyrobifastigium. It's a very, very important shape. A whole bunch of shapes are important. See, I get diverted. That's what happens when you have ADHD. I'm here to entertain you and educate you. Did you hear the airplane? Nice hot sunny day today. Where was I? So people love their religions, and the Jehovah's Witness people, the reason I sort of got onto them is the way I normally debunk a religion is to look at their holy book. And I hadn't really considered, well, what do they read? So it turns out they're all over the place, and out at my train station, they're there every day. So I asked a couple of them what their Bible was, and it's called the New World Bible. So I checked out that Bible, and it's been revised quite recently even. And I've read a lot of Bible, so I wasn't about to waste my time going through their whole Bible. I was looking for particular words, 4 particular words: hell, Lucifer, Satan, and the devil. Those 4 words, when used in any modern Bible, can tell you it's going to cause a fallacy of ambiguity because those words are not the correct translations for the original words in Aramaic or perhaps even in Greek. Modern Bibles did not exist before the year 385 when the Council of Nicaea and the bishops of Rome, or the bishops became the bishop, whatever. Rome was falling apart and the Christians took over. Rome was not in a good shape then, so anybody who wanted to take charge, they could, and the church did. So they created a Bible, the very first Bible, in around 385, and Jerome was the dude that did the translating supervision, and most of it himself, I would presume. And because of the errors that occur, we can be pretty certain he was using Greek translations, which would have been readily available at the Library at Alexandria if he did not have access to them in Rome. So Jerome made a few boo-boos, some would appear accidentally. Lucifer, in my opinion, was kind of an accidental error translation he made, and the reason I have that opinion is that in the Latin Vulgate, Lucifer appears twice, and it's used to mean two different words that have a sort of a cousin relationship but are not the same word. Lucifer is used to translate the word morning in, gee, my brain's going, the book of Job, I believe, Job, whatever the dude's name was. The guy who decided his suffering was good. He loved his suffering. Anyhow, where was I? See, I have ADHD and I wander. So I'm checking out the Jehovah's Witness Bible. You can read it online. That's easy. Didn't have to buy one. And I'm looking for these words and trying to get a feel for what their general philosophy is. So here's the thing. I've checked them out, and they did a terrific job of not turning the word grave into hell. There is no hell to them, as best I can tell. Hell is a state of being dead and not being aware you're dead. You die and you're not aware you're dead. And depending on your life, you may you'll come to life again somehow. I'm not sure how that's supposed to happen, but all of this comes out of the book of Revelation that somehow snuck its way into the Latin Vulgate and the Christian New Testament. So, actually, in the New Testament, it's not in the Vulgate. I'm mincing words here. Anyhow, what's important in the book of Revelation, verse 12:7, the words Satan, the devil, and the serpent are all brought together in one paragraph. So there is a place in the book of Revelation where all those words are basically stated to be one and the same. So if you associate them, that is not an error. But you need to know where the words Satan and devil came from. So let's begin with Satan, because that error began in the Greek translation from the Aramaic. Aramaic and modern Hebrew don't have obvious vowels. When you're learning it in modern Hebrew, there may be little dots here and there to give you the gist of what the word is about. But the word is spelled out in consonants. There are no written vowels. And when people are writing quickly, they won't even put any marks in there. They'll just put it's like speed writing and shorthand. They'll just write it out, and it'll be such a common word, you'll just know what it is. So I'm guessing that was sort of a bit of a problem when the Greek translation of the Hebrew writings, the Tanakh, the Old Testament you'll call it, got put into Greek. And there's a word in Aramaic which the letters they're written backwards, but if we pronounce them the way English, first to last, the way we'd say them, they would be the letters S, T, and N. And one can see how it'd be very easy just to say it was the word Satan, because I gather the pronunciation of that word sounds a lot like Satan. So it's easy to see how in the Greek translation of the Old Testament, the word Satan got in there. But you need to know what the word means. It's not a proper name of a person, never was. It got to be in myth and modern accepted urban myths and superstitions. It's not a specific person. It's a description of a person. It would be proper for any of you out there who don't agree with anything I'm saying to call me a Satan, or to describe me as a Satan. Somebody who doesn't agree with you, and maybe seriously, you may think I'm just full of poop. And you think I'm the devil incarnate. And this brings us to the next word, devil. Where did devil come from? It came from the King James translation of the Bible. I'm going to get around to the Jehovah's Witnesses eventually here. So, in 1605, around there, King James wanted a Bible in the language of the people, which was English at the time, and he ordered the translation of the King James version of the Bible, which was around for a long time, and it was replaced in the 80s with in most churches with the Revised Standard Version, where they ditched Lucifer, because anybody who knows anything knows there never was a Lucifer, never going to be a Lucifer. And to the credit of the Jehovah's Witness, there is no Lucifer in their Bible either. They got that one right. So they got hell right. There's no hell. They would use a proper translation, grave or burial place. It comes from a word Sheol. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly, which means grave or burial place. And there are a couple of other instances where a word hell may have been used to talk about a certain place in ancient times where sacrifices were made by fire. I'm told, and this is hearsay, so don't believe me, because I don't know if I can believe the source that I heard it from, but in those days it would not be unusual to sacrifice children to their gods. Abraham was going to sacrifice his son. Maybe that's what they did. And there would always be drums beating in this place, like constant drumming, and the drumming was to drown out the sounds of the animals being slaughtered, and perhaps getting rid of the kid problem by having them burned or killed for sacrifice to appease your psychopathic gods. And I am going to get around to the Jehovah's Witness. What I'm saying is they got that part right. There is no hell. And they follow the book of Revelation, which sort of, well, because I've seen they don't have a hell, and the way they explain it, and if you've read the book of Revelation, you'll know what's supposed to come, according to John, that when you die, you don't know you're dead, but you could be resurrected. But there's only going to be 144,000 selected people. And that, I presume, is part of their belief, the Jehovah's Witness, that they want to be one of the 144,000, and they're doing their darndest to prove to their psychopathic God that they should be one of the 144,000, even though I gather there's many more Jehovah's Witnesses than that number. I might be wrong, I don't know. So Satan, the devil, and the serpent are all brought together in Revelation 12:7, and in the Jehovah's Witness Bible, there is a Satan and there is a devil. And they do go along with that. There's just, and the serpent, they're all one and the same. And the devil or Satan or the serpent is the arch enemy of God for some reason. Why, we don't know. But if we get back to the meanings of the word Satan, I never did get around to talking about the devil. Well, I did, but I didn't finish. I told you that Satan is somebody who is your opponent, somebody with whom you're having an argument. The devil comes from Jerome's screw-up when and I guess we could say the Greek translation of the Aramaic, because I haven't read the Greek version of because I can read the letters, but I'm not fluent in Greek. So I'm not certain if they use the word diabolos in the Greek translation of the Hebrew writings into the Greek Old Testament, but certainly Jerome saw the word diabolos in the Greek translation. I guess they did. So he saw the word diabolos in the Greek translation of the Hebrew Old Testament, or their Bible, but our Old Testament. If you're a Christian, or I'm an atheist, it's just a book to me. But I won't get into that. So diabolos means the same as Satan. It comes from the Greek, ancient Greek, dia or dias, as another. Anyhow, coming out of, and balos, the hit or the hurt. So you can see how easy it is to put diabolos together, and it's some disagreement you're having for some reason with somebody else, and you're not going to agree, no how, nowhere. Just like the Jehovah's Witnesses are probably going to get really upset with me because I'm putting down their book and any kind of religion. So they made a big boo-boo, and it's easy to see how translation errors happen. An example is Chinese words sometimes translated literally into English can be very amusing to an English-speaking person, and it may confuse the Chinese-speaking person. Why do you find that funny? And it's just the way it came out. Another example might be if I know I was in the Navy back in the 60s, and I was a lieutenant submariner. I drove submarines. I was an officer. And living in England, and I was asked, because being an officer I had servants, and in England they were civilians, and I came across the phrase "knock you up." What time would you like me to knock you up in the morning? What? So if you were North American, being knocked up would mean making them pregnant. So it's that kind of difference in the way we take languages that makes it easy to see how, if you're trying to translate something that was written a long time ago and you're just using your own vernacular, then you get like to the King James version where they came across Jerome. He didn't know what diabolos meant, so he just changed the O to a U, which is Church Latin, and in the Latin Vulgate there's a diabolus. And when King James came along, they had, what is this diabolos thing? And devils were all the rage at the time anyway. So devil entered into our modern lexicon from the King James Bible mostly. The word devil started appearing here, there, and everywhere. Lots of places. So in the Old Testament, there is no devil, but there's a serpent. And hell was just grave. In the New Testament, we have Satan and the devil appearing, and both the words Satan and the devil come from mistranslations of somebody with whom you don't have an agreement, and it doesn't have to be a specific person. And why God would have an opponent is a mystery, but if God is a psychopathic, bipolar, crazy being that it seems to be, who will torture you and maim you and decide whether you live or die and just make you the perfect slave, I can see why that God would have enemies, and I be one of them. I'm out to kill God. Trust me, I'm doing what I can before I croak. I don't think there's anything to come. If there is, it'll be. I'm a physicist, and I understand things about reality which would turn your mind to rubber and like that, and I'm quite confident that things are doing whatever they're supposed to be, because I believe in the laws of physics. I have a really good theory about the speed of light, that it's the whole universe really is caused by the actual presence of an electron, which is a monopole. We know it's a monopole because they repel each other. And so electrons actually power the universe and set the speed of light. I ain't getting into that, but I said it. Look at it. Well, if you're going to look it up, you'll find me, because that's my theory. Where was I? So the big boo-boo, I'm up to nearly 20 minutes coming up, and I don't want to get too long because I'm yak. The problem the Jehovah's Witness people have is that they've embraced the book of Revelation so deeply that they have to go with the concept that there's some kind of war going on in heaven against Satan or the devil, which to them, they got their translations pretty good, except they didn't realize that Satan and the devil weren't people. But now it's so ingrained in their ideology, it would destroy their whole religion if they weren't some being in particular, and the only being that being could be would be somebody on a level or power equal to God. It would be the yin to the yang, or the yang to the yin, or the black to the white. I really am into the Knights Templar, and the flag of the Knights Templar, geez, I keep forgetting what it's called. I'm getting old. But it was basically a bar of white and a bar of black. So when they went into battle, they were carrying their flag, and then after the Grand Master of the Knights Templar was roasted alive on March 19, 1314 in 13. Did I get that right? 1314, by King Philip IV and Clement V of the Pope. He was the last Grand Master in the Knights in France, and then King Edward's bodyguard and lover were soon after murdered. He was a knight. The Knights Templar were the guys with the Red Cross. They had a rule from the Pope that said they could form armies, have castles. They were rich. Philip knew it, and he was trying to get their treasure, and he never got it. On Friday, October the 13th, 1307, he had ordered all the Knights Templar in France, northern France, to be arrested, but the Templars were gone the next morning. They weren't there, and their navy disappeared, and their treasure was gone. And we know 15 ships with no flag showed up in the Firth of Forth a couple of weeks later, and Robert the Bruce gave them refuge. And there's records that mounted knights were present at the Battle of Bannockburn on the side of the Scots, who didn't have knights. What was that all about? And an underwhelming Scottish force defeated an overwhelming British force that day, and Robert the Bruce whooped ass over the English. See how I got carried away? That's the love of ADHD. So the point of all this is if you're wondering what's going on with the Jehovah's Witnesses, they want to be part of the 144,000 that get the final resurrection when heaven comes down to earth, and there's almost like a city on earth, and 144,000 can live inside, and the other people who may have been resurrected never get to live on the inside. But that's the way it comes off to me when I read it. And their big boo-boo was they've got stuck in the book of Revelation, and they can't get out because it would destroy their whole superstitious ideology. So you can either go with them or not. I try to avoid them, and I've tried to do my best to show you where their boo-boo was. And it's the idea that the devil or Satan, and it's okay to say they're the same person, being, is some kind of opposite to God. If you go back to Genesis, there were lots of sons of gods. They were bonking all the women. They thought they were really hot. If you've read Genesis, you'll read that. Here's another quickie for you, the way Moses got the Jewish kids in line. When Moses came down off the mountain the second time, some crows out there, with the tablets, and he found they were worshiping the golden calf, he was really ticked. And he was a Levite, basically. And so he got his Levite brothers, and mostly brothers, but the brothers and sisters together, and said to the Levites, okay, you guys are in charge, and you're to go out into the camps today, and you are to kill anyone who doesn't get in line. So the way Moses whooped everybody in line was, it says in the Bible, if you've read it, and I have, that about 3,000 people were murdered that day, and that sort of took care of the dissenters. They were just... And then Joshua went on colonization of the the area we know as Jerusalem, which is where Melchizedek used to be years ago. I have crows nesting, and they come to check me out, see if I'll give them a handout. So they're probably going to squawk to see if I'll do that. I'm up to 23 minutes. I was just trying to entertain you and tell you I checked out the Jehovah's Witness, and they're a pile of crock just like they all are, and their boo-boo was embracing the idea of Satan and the devil, which were mistranslations. But there is no hell in their book, and there is no Lucifer, so they got that right. It's the pair from up the street. So Butchie Poo is going to say goodbye. You can check me out. I'm old, but I'm loud.